Hi, I'm John Messina, Athletic Director, St. Lucie West Centennial High School, and host of the show, Hey Coach. Today I have a very special friend, somebody who does not get the recognition for promoting high school sports in our county and in the area. He has been a tremendous partner for all our high school athletic directors, all our high school sports. Greg Wyatt. Greg, welcome.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for the invite.
Okay, and you know, this is long overdue, what you have done over the years. I know when we hosted state baseball, you were just a great promoter. You have promoted our sports. You have followed our sports throughout the state when we go to the playoffs. But first of all, let's talk a little bit about your background, Greg.
Do we have to?
That's a nice way to start. Okay.
Well, actually, as a kid, I was an athlete. Very, very poor one. But I did play football and was injured at St. Bernard's High School and played El Rey. And so I got this bug. I was 14 years old. I want to be around athletics, but obviously I'm not going to play. I also played baseball. So I got the idea, why not try and see if maybe we can get our games on the radio. There was a little tiny radio station in Inglewood, right near the school and right near where the forum was. And so I approached him, how much is time? And so that was it. And it all started there. St. Bernard Vikings football was on the air. And then all of a sudden, guy I was working for at a record store said, why don't you do basketball? I said, fine, let's do it. You know, and he sponsored it. It was great. And so it just all happened that way. Then some real weird stuff happened in my life. I mean, it just, if that wasn't crazy enough, because this is in Los Angeles, right? So all of a sudden, I was approached by Loyola University to do their games. And I was, at this point, going to be a junior in high school. And so I certainly said yes, because I was going to go to college there anyway. And see, I didn't even leave the area. I grew up in Westchester, which is right near LAX. I went to elementary school at St. Jerome's, went to high school at St. Bernard's, which at the time was a brand new school, and then wound up at Loyola U. And they're all within about a 5-mile radius, you know. But anyway, so I wind up, it was the college station, KXLU, doing Loyola University basketball as a junior in high school. It was like a dream. It really was. And my senior year of high school, they allowed me to travel. So here I am going to places like Butler and DePaul, and I'm a senior in high school.
And you're going with the team.
Oh yeah, you
wow.
bet. Yeah, my roommate
great.
on the road was the captain of the team, Detroit Flanagan, and some amazing stories with Loyola U. I mean, it was a great time. It was the the 60s, the early 60s. But yeah, it was amazing. And on several trips, we had the president of the school, Father Casasa, on the trips. And I mean, the whole thing was really amazing. And you think, wow, this is the real deal. And then I was very fortunate while I was going to college to get a job in the mailroom at KMPC Radio in Los Angeles. And some just really neat people there. And the fellow who owned the station was Mr. Autry, Gene Autry.
Who is the famous cowboy.
The cowboy.
And also the owner of the California Angels.
Yeah,
he's
right? Still Mr. Autry to me.
Yeah.
But anyway, but it was funny. And I got my start there in the mailroom at KMPC. And all of a sudden, on the same lot was KTLA Television, Channel 5. And somebody there said, what are you going to be doing? And I said, well, I'd kind of like to go into radio and television. He said, we've got an internship at Channel 5. Do you want to become a news writer? I said, you bet, sure. And it was right across the line. I mean, it was maybe 200-300 feet. So then all of a sudden, I started there. And kind of the rest is history. We hired this young college professor to become a sportscaster at KTLA. His name was Dick Enberg.
Wow.
And so anyway, wow. I wound up becoming Enberg's intern.
Wow, that's terrific.
And now we're both wearing shirts and ties, right?
Yes.
Story behind that. You very seldom see me without a shirt and tie.
Correct.
Okay, that's Enberg's fault. We're down at the Olympic Auditorium. Okay. This is a boxing arena, right?
Okay.
And every Thursday night, KTLA did the Thursday night fights. And after that, Dick would do his 10 o'clock sports, and I would write it for him, drive it down there. I had my Loyola Letterman stacking on with a golf shirt. I mean, you know, I was not shabbily dressed. And Dick sat me down after the sportscast, and he goes, what do the Lakers wear? I said, a uniform. He said, what do the Dodgers wear? It's a uniform. He said, this is your uniform.
No kidding.
Now, I was 18 years old.
Wow.
Now, did that make an impression or what? I'm almost 70. So it's like, yeah, and that's start of my career. I mean, I couldn't have asked for 3 better mentors than Vin Scully, Chick Hearn of the Lakers, and Dick Enberg.
That's terrific.
It's you talk about the hat trick.
Now, let me ask you a question. I always wanted to ask this question. Why do the radio stations, California, start with a K, and the radio stations like in New York start with a W?
I have no idea, but
I thought I was going to get an answer out of you on that.
It's ironically there are a couple K's east of the Mississippi too. One is KDK in Pittsburgh and KYW in Philly. Yeah, I mean, there was some dividing line there. And
was it geographical?
Yeah, Mississippi River. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
See, now you answered my question. I always wanted to know that answer.
Yeah.
Okay. Give us a little background, and I think everybody's going to like this story. It's about how you started working with ESPN.
Oh, God. That was amazing. I have to go back to a day that Carol and I went to Beverly Hills, and we were both working in San Diego at the time. And Carol was anchoring the news, and I was third man in a 3-man sports staff, which meant I did all the traveling. San Diego Padres at the time had been purchased by Ray Kroc.
Right,
McDonald's.
who was our McDonald's guy, right?
Yeah.
At that time, yes.
So at the time, Ballard Smith was the general manager of the Padres, and they said, what would it take to set you up with a virtual television station in the plane? I said, just set up an edit suite out, in back by the food area. So they did. They literally built an edit suite so I could edit on the plane while the ball players were sleeping.
How are you editing things on a plane way back then?
This was all 3/4-inch tape. These are the tape cassettes that are this thick. And
really?
Yeah. And we would shoot. And normally, especially if we were at home, I would have my interns, of which I had 3 great interns. One is now the executive producer of Dodger Baseball, Glenn Diamond. Wow. The other is Dave Silver, who decided to go to Tucson, Arizona, which is where Carol and I started our TV lives, and stayed there. And Dave is the sports director of K-Gun Television, the ABC affiliate
and you're sitting here with me. And you're sitting here with me.
Yeah. Okay. And the other one, though, my other intern, Vince Askey, got the best job in the world. He became a softball and baseball coach in Sweden. The best of all worlds for a college kid to go to Sweden and softball kids. Yeah, it was amazing. But the 3 of those guys really did all of our work, and it was marvelous time in San Diego. We had 2 great news directors who were just really involved. Our sports director, Mike Smith, was really into local, and I mean, he pounded local a lot, and I really got that from Tucson. I mean, I was everywhere when it came to local sports, whether it was high school. We even did middle school sports
Wow.
in Tucson. And this is back 69, 70 through 74. And the big thing in Tucson was I had done an investigative series at Channel 4, which was not very popular at the University of Arizona. The AD, sports information director, and a bunch of people lost their jobs. The football coach left. I mean, this was not a good...
Was that something that you were sent to do?
Well, I was assigned to do this, and I knew that as a sports director that there would be some friction. So anyway, we hire, as it turned out, first African-American basketball coach at a major university. Desert Fox, Fred Snowden, out of Detroit.
Really?
And Freddie,
that's right.
He was great. And Fred was just a ball of energy and stuff. And Dick Vitale was the one who followed Fred at Detroit.
Correct.
So anyway, Fred was just awesome. And that's where I really learned a lot about basketball, was just sitting on planes and traveling around with him. And it was just a marvelous experience.
Did you ever think way back then that they can do 24-hour sports?
No, God, no.
Nobody thought that.
No.
I remember growing up, if you had 2 minutes or 3 minutes on the 6 o'clock news.
Yeah.
And the local news, I remember when I was in high school, we never were promoted on the local news, even in the state championships. But look at it now. I mean, just watching the NBA playoffs and seeing LeBron, I remember watching him in high school.
Right.
On national television.
Well, going back to the pre-ESPN, this would have been summer of '79, and turning the clock back to '78 a little bit, Carol and I go to Beverly Hills, meet with a super agent, and the guy's name was Ed Hookstratton. Great guy. Now, his client list included Scully, Enberg, and a bunch of news anchors in Los Angeles, right? Okay. Our chance of becoming clients of his. And he looked at both of us and he said, "You guys are going to have very good television careers, but you're never going to make me any money." So we were all down and depressed and stuff. So all of a sudden, Charlie Jones, NBC Sports, the late Charlie Jones, comes up to me, and he lived in La Jolla. And I forget where I was. I think we were doing a tennis tournament or something at La Jolla High School, La Jolla Day School. And all of a sudden, Charlie goes, "You better keep your ear to the grindstone. I hear that 20 people are going to be leaving NBC Sports, including Chet and Scotty," and that Chet being Chet Simmons, Scotty Connell, who had been at NBC Sports for 32 years. And actually, Scotty's the one who invented the center field camera whole situation and instant replay. So, I mean, Scotty was a genius. And so he said, I hear some rumors. And he said, just keep an ear. Okay, fine. So, at the time, I was, again, very fortunate. We had some stories break in San Diego that were pretty large that went to KNBC. And they had at the time at NBC, I'm sure they still do, a thing called the pack feed. So all my stories, along with everything else from San Diego, would go to KNBC in Burbank. At the time, Stu Nahan, Brian Gumbel were there, and and we always sent stuff to each other. So unbeknownst to me, Bryant takes some of my stories.
Brian Gumbel.
Bryant back to New York. So anyway, I get this phone call, and it was from Scotty. And he said, "I just got off the phone with your news director, and he has cut your work week down to 3 days a week." I'm just going, "Oh, great. This is just what I need to find out I get a pay cut." He said, "No, the other 3 days you're going to be part of NBC Sports." I go, "Whoa, well, yeah, this is really cool." So that was 1977. 78, I'm doing Game of the Week specials for football and baseball. Okay, fine. That's all. And I forget what town we were in. I can't even remember what town we were in. Jim Simpson was the broadcaster for the game. Jim puts his arm around me. He said, Greg, I can't tell you this. I'm not supposed to tell you, but you're going to be getting a phone call soon. I'm leaving NBC. Going, really? And he goes, yeah. And so I can't tell you where, but you know all the people involved. So it's like, okay, this is weird. And this was early in the baseball season.
Okay.
So Carol and I go on vacation. We're in Baja. There's one telephone in the entire village of LA Bay, Bahia de Los Angeles. And so anyway, all of a sudden, this kid rides up on a bicycle. Senior Wyatt, Nuevo York, on the telephone. Okay, who in the world is calling LA Bay, and how did they get the number?
On the one phone.
On the one phone
there, okay?
So anyway, it was Scotty.
Yeah.
And I said, what are you doing? Carol and I are on vacation. He goes, I want you to fly back to New York tonight. And I said, we're 700 miles from San Diego. There's no way I'm even going to get back there tonight. And he goes, I want you guys to leave because I want you to come to New York. Okay. And so anyway, cut our vacation short, wind up going back. And he said, I just want you to know I'm leaving NBC. So I'm sitting there going, wait a minute. Go through this drill, fly 3,000 miles, and Scotty's leaving. Okay. And say, oh, by the way, you're coming with me. It's like, whoa, really? Okay. So then I go back to San Diego, tell our news director, and everybody's going, you're going to what? Cable? What the hell's that?
No, nobody had an idea what cable was.
Actually, we did in San Diego because Cox Cable was
the first one,
just
one of the
starting.
first ones?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But and I knew Bill Daniels, who actually Daniels Cablevision was one of the fathers of cable. But it was weird. It was just okay.
Yeah.
So I really rolled the dice, and the rest is history. I mean, it was just an amazing experience. We go on the air. Had been on the air about a matter of like 3 or 4 months. Scotty comes down to Sports Center and says, guys, we're going to go 24 hours. Yeah, we're all looking at each other going, wait a minute. We were on from 6 o'clock to midnight. There are no live events, obviously. There's no satellites at that point in time. I mean, it was like,
So you're just getting feeds in from all over the country.
Yeah.
And that's what you're editing them and putting them on?
Right, yeah.
Wow.
And so, and I didn't realize till I was talking to somebody who's still at ESPN now that we didn't have our first live broadcast till 1983, which I didn't realize. We'd been on the air almost 4 years.
And everything was on tape.
Everything was on tape.
Wow.
We have some great stories. I mean, it's just the best was one of our directors, and he directed Sports Center. He was crazy, absolutely crazy. Fred Muzzy. And so Fred used to go to the bar next door. And this is nighttime, right? And we got a UCLA game playing. Well, it's from earlier in the day. Fred starts making bets, saying, I'll bet this guy's going to score a touchdown. Of course, these knuckleheads in the bar had no idea. Bingo, all of a sudden, touchdown scored.
Because that was all on tape delay.
Fred makes money, and it was all of a sudden, everybody was joking in Sports Center that the West Coast guy, meaning me, would have to go start Fred's car because the folks next door were after him. Oh, some great stories, though.
You know the story that I always remember, and it's way back before that time, our former President Reagan started as a sportscaster.
Oh, yeah.
And there was the famous story when he was the announcer for the Chicago Cubs. But a lot of times he took the feed in the studio because somebody at the stadium would do the ticker tape.
Recreations. Yes.
So he would make sounds and stuff like this. Well, the ticker tape broke.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you know the story. I think he told it at one of the sports writers' dinner or the journalist dinner. And he says, I'm sitting in the studio. The Cubs are playing. At that time, they were good. I think that was the last time they were good. And the ticker tape broke. And he said, well, what did you do? He hit a foul ball. Then he hit another foul ball. Then he hit a third ball.
Yes.
22 foul balls. And then he had to catch up. But I think people don't realize the involvement. I mean, and I think with radio, and you're a radio guy, even though we have done TVs together and shows like that, you have to be much more creative because radio is not only your ears, but it's your eyes.
Chick Hearn. Chick Hearn used to say, welcome to our bird's eye view.
That's a great line.
That is a great, because you have to paint the entire picture. And that's why when we were talking about Jim Simpson a little bit earlier, the fact that Jim, who was a career radio guy, had to reteach himself to work with the tools of television, with the instant replays and some of the, with the graphics.
Now, let me ask you this question. Do you think the announcers now go a little bit too much on television because you're seeing it yourself? Do you think they're overdoing it, explaining to you? It's right in front of you. And with all these different camera angles now, you see everything.
I don't think the announcers now could hold a candle. I mean, Chris, I'm sure every generation says this. They can't hold a candle to the Scullys, to the Enbergs. I mean, it's just, it can't be done. There's a reason why Vin Scully's a poet laureate of baseball.
And for those people who really don't understand or really don't know Vince Scully, he's how old now?
Oh, he's 87 now.
And he's been doing it 60-something years?
He started carrying Red Barber's briefcase.
Red Barber, the old announcer for the Dodgers
announcer
and
for the
Yankees.
Brooklyn Dodgers.
And the Yankees.
And so, it's, or the late Ernie Harwell. It's, all these guys could create an entire picture. I don't think, and they also...
In their own way, they were an artist.
Yes.
Painting a picture for everybody, right?
But, and they also took the time with, whether it was coaches, managers, scouts, you name it, to learn the game. I don't think the guys now do. As a matter of fact, I've got one of our guys from KCST in San Diego. Actually, the night I was leaving to go to ESPN, we get this phone call in San Diego. My wife was just about ready to take me to the airport. It was Don McGuire. And Don was the executive producer of NBC Sports. And actually, McGuire got that post because Scotty left. So anyway, McGuire calls and he said, Greg, you've been with us now for almost 2.5 years. We want you to do football. And I'm going, oh, God. I said, I'm leaving for ESPN tonight. He said, is there anybody else you know that can do it? And I said, yeah. His name is Phil Stone. I said, he looks good and says nothing. He's perfect for you. and so anyway, they hired Stoney. And Phil was a kind of a guy that's very similar to a lot of other announcers today. That I call them cookie cutter announcers, where Phil had 5 major league jobs. And it was one of those things that in several of the places, he didn't even live in the town he was doing the games. Well, that, fans see through that. A good sports fan really understands you can't play that game with them. But, going back to how I got ESPN, and your question, boy, this is long involved. But as it turns out, this guy who was going to be one of our interns at Channel 39 said, Greg, I can't do it. I just can't do it because I've been hired by a radio station to be a chicken. I said, oh, okay. And this is Ted Gianolis. And
This
Ted,
is this famous
this is
chicken.
yeah.
Wow.
So anyway, Ted says, I'm just gonna do it for this weekend, and we'll see what happens. Well, come to find out, Teddy had an amazing career. But it didn't last long with a radio station. And somehow, some way, the radio station sued him. So there was this great chicken trial. Now, very few
This
people.
is a real trial.
Oh, yeah.
A
This
real
is
in
San
a
Diego
courtroom.
Superior Court.
They had
Oh, yeah.
nothing better to do but put the chicken on trial.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
They
all
sued
right.
Ted and his family
For?
for breach of contract, basically, because they claimed that they owned the chicken suit.
Now, when he went on trial, did he wear the chicken suit or not?
Actually, he did not wear a chicken suit, but he wore a bag over his head.
Why?
Nobody knew who Teddy was.
That's right.
They knew who the alter ego, the
that's
chicken,
right.
was.
That's right.
So anyway,
And the judge allowed this.
oh yeah, the judge allowed it. So anyway, we're in there, and this is very early on, cameras in the courtroom. So I also had an artist, and you talk about a big time artist. This was a lady that I wound up using a lot when I was at ESPN. She was from NBC in Burbank. So she's doing sketches and stuff, hysterical stuff. We put together a piece for Game of the Week. And that did it. I mean, that if there were any executives who were going to be going to ESPN who did not think that was the craziest story they'd ever seen,
That's the craziest story I've ever heard.
that worked. And
Wow.
yeah, the San Diego chicken got me my job at ESPN.
The San Diego chicken
That's right.
got you your job at ESPN.
Totally responsible for. And actually, we ran into Teddy when I was at ESPN up in Norwich, Connecticut. He was doing a minor league game up there. And I told him, I said, you understand. You're the reason I'm here.
Wow.
But anyway, it's been a fun ride. It really has. And it was almost a total accident that we discovered the Treasure Coast. And yeah, I was up doing the Dodgers. Because when I left ESPN, I was told by Scotty, we're walking the field of the Super Bowl, and this would have been in '85. And Scotty said, you're going to get fired. All of you original guys are going to get fired. It's like, okay.
Now, I got to interrupt you for a second. We're doing so well on time that we're going to finish up this segment, and we're going to bring you back next month
Cool.
to finish this story and talk more about our memorable events, which you guys do in high school sports. But Greg, I'd like to thank you.
You bet.
I'm speaking for the athletic directors. I'm speaking for all the coaches. I'm speaking for all the student athletes in our county. Thank you, and thank your wife for what you do for high school sports for us. It goes unnoticed by a lot of people, but I know the people that count really appreciate it.
Well, it's been a fun ride for us, too.
Okay, so I'd like to thank everybody and thank everybody for this segment of Hey Coach.